If you know the videos on my channel, you're probably very familiar with Golden Lap, my most successful series to date. Who you might not be so familiar with are the people behind that wonderful game. So I have with me today the co-founders of Strelka Games and the COO of Funselektor. They are Francesco and Pietro De Grandi. Welcome in, guys. How are we doing?
Well, good. Thank you for having us.
I managed to get the name pronunciations correct as well. I made sure to do a double check before we began. Obviously, you guys co-founded Strelka and you work with Funselektor as well, specifically you, Pietro. Obviously, back in 2023, I think it was, Golden Lap's development was put on pause. And then you guys got in touch and started talking about revitalizing the project. So to understand the setup a little bit better, how does Strelka and Funselektor work together? And what's that relationship like?
I met personally with Dune, which is the Funselektor founder, a few years ago. I think it was 2018 or 2019. So we knew each other since a while. During summer 23, we were talking about stuff and like managing to gaming companies and projects and things. Dune told me that it was basically looking to stop production of Golden Lap because Funselektor at that time was working on an Art of Rally DLC, a new prototype that would then become Over the Hill and other stuff. And the team is small. Yeah. So he wanted to focus on a couple of things, and Golden Lap unfortunately was kind of like a side project that was still was a bit stalling. So we started talking, and we as a company also were like slowing down with the projects that we currently had. Kind of naturally, we arrived at the conclusion that we could help on Golden Lap because he was quite sad to have to halt the project.
I can see why.
We love, and we love motorsports. We love Formula One. So what looked like a good match. Dune said like, "Hey guys, why don't you take it on together with us and like help pushing while we do the other stuff, you help pushing out that game." So we made a plan, and it turned out to be working quite well. So we managed to do the game and then keep working together. So we started working together on Golden Lap, and then the relationship evolved quite a bit to the point that we are now also working on the new game together as one team, and I'm also working as a CEO on Funselektor. So.
And a side question on that point, what was the liquor you were drinking at the point that Dino sealed that marriage between Funselektor and Strelka, the speakeasy in San Fran?
Mainly whiskey.
Ah, good. I'm a whiskey man myself, so I approve.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll begin properly with Golden Lap. So it does a great job of simplifying racing management. And I don't mean that obviously in a bad way. It's simplifying in an approachable yet still really fun way. Mostly sim racing games aren't quite like that, or management sims rather for racing games aren't like that. So if you had, someone that wasn't familiar with F1 but wants to try out Golden Lap, because I have heard a few people say, I'm not into F1, but this looks like a really good game. What would be the simplest explanation you would give them of the game?
It's an interesting question. First of all, that's a little bit like the Funselektor mark, right? It takes like a genre and has like a simplified vision on it. Like it has to be very approachable, straightforward, but still yet fun. And that's what done with Absolute Drift, Art of Rally, Golden Lap, and also Over the Hill. How to describe the game for someone that never played like a management game is basically you manage a Formula One team, but what you actually see is dots going around. That's probably the fastest way to see. Like it's just like watching dots and tell the dots what to do.
It's an incredible setup as well, really, because the amount of times that I've thought, if you were to explain that to someone who hadn't seen any of the footage of the game, they might think, what do you mean you're managing dots? What does that even entail? But once people see it, they're kind of like, actually, we had this thing through my series of people in the comments going like, the dots are back, and people love the dots. So you guys have made some very addicting dots, I can tell you that.
It's that together with the 70s. Like we like the golden age of Formula One. I think we really are as a team. Like everyone is quite in love with motorsport and Formula One. I'm into Formula One since forever. Other people is maybe newer, but like if you start looking at the 70s, it's so romantic and interesting, and people like the stories that are there are crazy. People showing up super drunk. You can see people smoking and then jumping in the car and then jumping out and celebrating with champagne.
It's wild, isn't it? The lack of safety that they had back then.
People dying, getting hurt, coming back. Like it's the essence of motorsport. And we tried a little bit to reproduce that in the game, which is something that no other management game really do.
I was going to ask about the way that Golden Lap is set over 10 seasons in the 70s. Some people were kind of saying, I want more than 10 seasons. I want to be able to go longer. Yeah. The problem obviously being that regulation changes, the game would have to change fundamentally. The you'd get scope creep to the nth degree in your development cycles. And I was going to ask what the motivation was for targeting that decade, but I think you may have just nailed it perfectly by saying about how romantic it was and kind of at the same time being such a wild time. But is there anything else that kind of motivated you to really hone in on that era?
The project was born with like many decades, and then we had to shrink it to 1 decade for production reasons, for like scoping. So there are 2 reasons why now it's difficult to add a decade. One is that there is a lot of work involved, because we cannot just add a decade with the same systems. We need to create, like, differentiate 1 decade to another. So there is a lot of design involved. The other one is that we were thinking also about maybe like an infinite mode or like adding years. But because the game is built on 10 years now, and then Francesco can maybe add to that technically, but it's changing that is going to change a lot of systems that are based on the 10 years lot. But why we choose the 70s mainly because we think it's the best era of Formula One, and it's also the one that can give you the most fun in terms of gameplay. So we can get more crazy compared to the 90s, for example, that it's like in terms of rules and what's going on, it's a bit more boring. 90s or 2000s are more boring in a way.
You couldn't have people showing up hungover for sessions.
Exactly, or it's just like even just dying. Like it's like maybe once every 10 years. Back in the 70s, like 5-6 times a year. So it keeps things interesting game-wise, let's say. Like much better now for safety, of course, but for game purposes or gameplay.
Francesco, Pietro just touched on something there about how slightly differing game mechanics or eras could massively affect how the simulation works. Obviously, simulation games are, in a lot of the cases, they're much less about the world you go through in the game, and they're more about the formulas, the algorithms, the calculations that are happening minute to minute as the game goes on. Did you have a lot of late nights trying to unpack long, complex formulas? Were there beautiful graphs with a lot of data? I love a spreadsheet myself.
Yeah, actually there were quite some complex formulas there. For instance, calculating how long a tire should last and how like pushing or conserving mode are changing that. Also, as you probably have noticed, the tire consumption like changes how fast the car goes.
Of course,
so also calculating them and balancing them has been like a nightmare.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm actually a developer full-time myself, so like I understand where it might come into that. I needed your detailed breakdown for my season so I could get ahead and know exactly when things are going to stop.
Also because, then there is, water on track that is not a 0-1, can be like in a range, so that's it's a very entangled algorithm, and that's just for the tires. Then you go inside and you have to code the economy system and the probabilities that some part breaks, for instance. Also, that has been a nightmare because there was an instance where we had 12 DNFs in a race. So
oh wow!
Also,
yeah,
trying to balance and that was a nightmare. It's just a matter of finding the right formula, to try to simulate something realistic.
At one point, we also had drivers dying like flies. So 5-6 races into the season, you didn't have any driver that started the season anymore. So yeah,
that's what I mean. In my playthrough, Vernier went through about 4 drivers in the season just by themselves. But they became like the team nobody wanted to go to.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to keep still some balance that things like that could happen, but also not having to change 4 drivers.
Going through those formulas and kind of getting really down into the nitty gritty of it, did it change how you perceived either the gameplay or the sport in general by going into that level of detail with it?
Honestly, yes, because we had to study a little bit. Also, for instance, tire consumption, right? We had to really understand how it works in real life, and obviously our algorithm is just a simplistic approximation of that. But in order to come up with a very good formula, you have to understand what really happens in the real world, so...
You have to make the gameplay, feel realistic. It needs to feel resemblant of, a soft tire dropping off quite quickly compared to a hard tire, which is slower, but will last you longer and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
We also had the opportunity to have a chat, me and Francesco, with a person that actually worked many years and is still working as a consultant in Formula One as a tire engineer.
Oh, wow.
It gave us a lot of insight on both how it actually works, which is very complicated compared to our simulation, but any simulation. Like how a tire gets warmed up or not, it's cold or hot. It's like crazy complicated, and it also varies from single tire to single tire. Like, so it's a word. It's a whole word. It's very interesting. But it also gave us like a lot of hints on how data visualization that they have is actually done, and it's quite close. Like he was quite surprised on how close our UI was to what they actually use.
There you go. It's a perfect representation. Nobody can complain that the tires don't work properly because it's F1 backed.
Exactly. And then we also had the opportunity to go and visit McLaren, and we did access some parts, including mission control, which is like where the engineer stays during the race that are connected to, and we see like all the stuff and software there. And it's also quite interesting because people that are fan of our games, so they invited us there.
That's really cool. And McLaren, I know of historically, I think they did something with a university at one point where they explained how fuel strategy would work throughout a race as well. So they're clearly open to like working with, you know, third parties to give away their data.
We had a very fun chat with the lead strategist. That's the guy that invited us there. So
that's really cool.
It was very cool. Yeah.
Shout out the McLaren lead strategist for helping them make such an awesome game. There you go. As I said before, like racing managers are usually these really involved, almost headache-inducing level of particularness, you know, and granularity to the stats and things like that. So that can often alienate people from the game that don't like having to spend basically a working day trying to plan out their race strategy and things like that. What was the most satisfying aspect for each of you in making a more approachable game in that genre? And what were some of the frustrating things that you maybe had to deal with as part of that?
I mean, satisfying is to see people that don't necessarily come from Motorsport Manager or Formula One Manager that enjoy the game. It's like there are a lot of people that just come in like, I've never played a management game. I like Formula One and I really enjoyed this, which was our goal. If you are really deep into Motorsport Manager, then you're probably gonna prefer that game to ours. Ours has a twist, and I think even for someone that plays Formula One Manager or like Motorsport Manager, you can still enjoy the fact that it's faster, so it's less demanding. You can just play half an hour, then forget about it, and then play another hour in 5 days, and it's fine. You don't have to have Excel spreadsheets on the side and stuff. But if you like that kind of thing, then probably like Motorsport Manager is a great game. So for me, satisfaction comes from people that basically approach the genre through our game that I really like. Frustrating, it's like as a player or as like a developer of a game, would have liked to add much more complexity. Sometimes it's like, oh, we could add this and that, very cool things, but it goes above the vision of the game itself. So we had to be strict and say, okay, no, let's keep it simple here, and there.
I think you could always add more as well, right? Even if you
exactly.
made, you know, a clone of F1 Manager or Motorsport Manager, you probably could have still said, well, we can add more there as well.
Exactly.
Then poor Francesco doesn't sleep.
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes we had like the whole team had like very good ideas. We came up with like cool stuff that we had to decide not to put in the game for one reason or the other, and that's the frustrating part.
As a management game player myself, I agree with that. I basically play Formula One Manager, Football Manager, a lot of managers. Sometimes I just came up with this idea that was aiming to like add some depth to the game, but then obviously since the aim was to have a light version of those games, that wouldn't really fit into the game concept. So it was a little frustrating, but also completely understandable. I think it's one of the strengths of the game, to be honest. So on the other side, I was very happy about how the mods integration has been perceived and used, because that took quite some time for us to integrate it directly into the game, accessible for all the people to mod the game. And seeing that feature has been, I think, one of the most used features of the game, and has been used by a lot of players. Yeah, that's really
it gives more life to the game as well, doesn't it? Like more replayability, because then there are huge projects like Baldur's Gate 3, for example, that didn't come out with official modding support for a long time. But then there was an uptick again the moment they brought that out, and in the same thing, you know, it just gives, again, replayability and more ways for you to enjoy the game. To kind of echo what you both said in a way, like I've had people say to me, like, I'm not into like F1 even at all in real life, or management games usually, but this game has been amazing. And so you've clearly hit this perfect balance somehow that it just resonates with people.
I remember I was so surprised when I found out that someone made a MotoGP mode, and we were like, hey, why not? Actually, the game can work as a MotoGP manager. Probably.
That's incredible.
Potentially we would have liked, but that's something that we can still do in the future, because we're still working on the game a little bit. We have probably a new update coming up in a month or so.
What can we look forward to in that update? What's the headline?
I would say, if the last update was a little bit more like quality of life stuff, this time we're trying to add a little bit of content and maybe some features to try to...
Not going into specifics. Trying to keep your cards close to your chest. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Honestly, not because I want to be mysterious, but there are stuff that we're still testing. So if they're not fun, they're not gonna make it. And
that totally
fun,
makes sense.
Then we're gonna scale it. But we're trying to do like some new features that can improve a little bit the longevity of the game, maybe, or like adding some fun to the game, basically. And mod is not something we're working on now, but it's something on the list, maybe in the future, or maybe not. It depends. We would like to give modders more power, because at the moment it's limited to like the names and the stuff, but like maybe changing the rules, or like tracks is very difficult. It's the most requested thing, but it's very difficult for us to do a track editor. But that would be the dream.
Yeah, because from the player's view, I suppose it looks like you draw a line and the track would just work. But from the code behind the scenes, it's what's a low speed corner, what's a high speed corner, how does the tires work, how good are they at cornering, braking, and all this kind of stuff.
I can confirm it, but we would need to basically build a track editor in game to do that.
Yeah, or like it's like a whole separate game in the game, right?
Tool, yeah.
You never see racing manager games usually involve deaths of drivers, right? It's a topic that they tend to avoid, but it's a harsh reality of the sport, especially in 1970. So personally, I found that a really refreshing addition to a racing manager game. Were there any other potentially shocking aspects of the sport, or controversial, or things like that you thought about including and didn't, or wanted to include but didn't have the time or the scope for?
On my side, for sure, the financial aspects of the teams, something that we don't really touch base much in the game. You just have budget and you use it and you win some money. But in the 70s, that was wild. Like there were some teams fueled by royalties, or like questionable sponsors, or like cigarette money.
I was going to say cigarettes all over the place.
At one point it was like Playboy was sponsoring, but we don't want to create like a big financial system. But if we did, then they've implemented also crazy stuff going around.
In the new update, maybe we see Playboy amongst your sponsor options. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Controversial, I think comes to my mind that we said like, oh no, this is too controversial, we don't want to put it, because I think you can put anything in a game if you do it in the right way. It's not necessarily what you put, it's how you put something in a game.
You could approach the death very like gory, right? You could have had the dot like not just kind of graying out, but blood coming out everywhere, and it could have been a much worse scenario than it was, I think.
And also it's easier when you have dots instead of like actual persons like represented.
Other than, obviously you said already that you were going to go beyond 10 seasons. Was there anything else that you really thought, we were going to put this in, but then we kind of changed track during development?
I remember we at a certain point spoke about adding weird parts to the cars. I remember correctly, Tyrrell in the 70s had like a 6 wheels car.
Yes.
Which was one of the crazy stuff that happened during those years, right?
Yeah.
But that would have gone against the simplicity of the game, like adding so many variables. I remember we also discussed about the possibility to have more drivers for the same team. During those years, I think there were teams with 3 drivers or like 4 drivers.
In general, I'd consider Golden Lap to be a hidden gem, right? Not enough people know about it, but the people that do absolutely love it. Are there any hidden gems in the game? The Easter eggs, nuanced features, anything like that you know is in there, but you don't see players mention often?
Slightly different, but it's more like the long game, like the end game, or like mid game. Like if you play 5-6 seasons, then you start, I think, enjoying more the end of a season, like rebuilding the team, and like the progression that you can have, especially if you start with like a low tier team. Rather than if you play just 1 or 2 seasons, then you don't have much of that.
Or if you just start out with Ezzolini.
Yeah, exactly. Then probably you play a couple of seasons, then like, okay, that's the game. Like I can't name 1 or 2 specific tracks, but if you don't play a few years, then you don't play every track. It's like they are like randomly picked every year.
Yeah, you've got some mainstays, right, that are one of the traits of the track where it's more likely to appear.
Now that I think about tracks, there is a thing that we had in the game, we had to put it out, like to take out, that we really loved, but was too complicated. That is the Nordschleife.
Oh,
so we
the green
did have
hell.
did had it. The lap was so long that everything was messy, and the tires at one point were not lasting one lap. So it was too complicated, so we had to take it out. The first playtest we've done, I think the track was still there, the first or the second. So some people actually played it. Again, it requires a lot of tweaking just for that one track to hold the systems. But that was we were very sad to have to take it out because it was different.
It's iconic.
Playing on that was different. Yeah.
The pit lane just becomes part of the lap, essentially. You just keep
exactly.
going through,
Exactly. And then we should have but yeah, that's one thing for sure that we had to take out that we would have liked to keep in.
It would have been amazing to see that and just to see the difference. But yeah, from a development perspective and the scope perspective, I can see how that would just throw complete spanner in the works because you'd have to have so many if Nordschleife branches in your code and just rewriting so many things. So picture this, you're sitting down for a game of Golden Lap, you're starting a new career, but you have available to you all the personnel of F1 past and present. Who are your two drivers, your crew chief and your engineer for each of you?
Ooh. Two drivers, I would say, with infinite budget, I would say Senna and Schumacher.
You're the Ezzolini team running off into the distance then. That's where this is going.
Or there are so many good drivers, even if you go, I don't know, Lauda, it's another one. Engineer, I would say Adrian Newey.
Strong choice.
Chief, I would pick, Colin Chapman.
I don't actually know who that is.
Colin Chapman is Lotus, or the founder of Lotus.
That explains the name, I guess, in game. Then. We'll come to the naming of the teams later, but that's
engineer. He was but he was also managing the team. He was the owner of the team.
So you got Chapman, you've got Newey, you've got Schumacher and Senna. That's a strong team. Francesco, who are you going with?
Pietro was too good. I can't match him, I guess. I agree. I think with all his choices, probably Verstappen over Schumacher.
Also a good choice.
I really love the man. I think he's one of the best of the last 20 years at least.
Generational talent. I agree.
Yeah.
Are you just putting anybody in the second seat and just developing for Max? Is that the way you're going to go?
Yeah.
You need the rest of the team if you have Verstappen.
It's Pietro's whole team versus Max. That's going to be the course.
Probably as a second driver, Niki Lauda, I guess. I really love his alter ego in our game, so I always pick him.
Levi Mack, right? That's the Niki Lauda.
That's the guy.
He actually didn't win the title in my playthrough. It was Moretti had him in the second half of the season. Moretti was, I think it was he was injured for 2 or 3 races, and then he came back and won 4 on the trot. And then Mack just never recovered mentally or something. I don't know what happened, but Dot was more of a semicircle by the end of it, I think.
Yeah. He's always my go-to choice. As soon as I have enough budget to hire him, I hire Levi Max, so I'm not sure about the other 2 roles, to be honest.
You can pick the best Italian team principal that Formula 1 ever seen.
You're not going to tell me that's Mattia Binotto or something, are you?
Nope. You're forgetting about someone. Recent years. It's not that since a few years.
Italian. No? I don't really pay much attention to nationalities. This might be where I struggle myself, so I might say next question, but Italian TPs. Yeah, you're going to have to enlighten me.
Gunther Steiner.
Oh, I forget he's Italian.
He's Italian. He's from Südtirol. He speaks German more than Italian, but
that might be partly why then. He's legendary. He's amazing. I absolutely love Gunther. I'm not sure where he ranks in terms of being the technically best team principal, but for entertainment value and a guy that I want to go for a beer with, he's right up there for sure.
Yeah, you have Max. You don't need the best team principal. You just need the the funnier one.
That would actually work really well as well, because Max doesn't like answering interview questions. But he'd just palm it off to Gunther Steiner, and Gunther Steiner would just take it all. It'd be great. I was looking on the Funselektor website, and there's a Graham Hill quote there that reads, "I am an artist. The track is my canvas, and the car is my brush." What specifically for you guys inspired the art style of Golden Lap and the UI and things like that? What was your canvas and your brush for that?
We're probably not the best person to answer this question, but because I know it, but it's just it feels, I don't want to feel like I've done anything in the game. There is a whole team. The inspiration was a modern, smooth, nice and chill UI. So we took inspiration from other games. Mini Metro or Mini Motorway is one of those, for example.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
So we just wanted to have a minimalistic approach to the visuals of the game, while still trying to keep the romantic aspect of the 70s. We could have gone very deep into like a vintage look, but we decided to keep it more neutral with just the vibe of like very warm, nice and cozy. That's reflected in the UI, in the VFX, in the sounds of the game, I guess.
Your art team nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. I think because one of the first things I noticed was the cleanliness of the UI. Because I really like the kind of, I think I mentioned this in my first video, like I love the kind of blurred background, clean foreground kind of elements that you have through the menu system.
Yeah, so we came out with all the mockups, and then the developers were not really happy about that, because like doing all that stuff, the blur, the slide, like drop shadows and stuff, it's hell on Unity.
To use another quote, Matt Mullenweg, the owner of WordPress, once said, "Code is poetry." Francesco, for the nerds out there that are listening to this, and for the fellow developers like myself, how do you approach the poetry aspect of your code? Is there no poetry and you just kind of write and there's no spaces, no indentation? Or like, what's your style?
No, obviously we have like coding style. I agree with that, to be honest. You can like immediately see the difference between a clean code or a dirty code, you know, where like a spaghetti code. I think there's poetry in that. I agree with that. Really, we try to approach it in the cleanest way possible, which means if after a couple of months I cannot understand what my code did and it's doing, it's probably an issue because no other people will be able to.
Yeah, every coder has their dialect, right, as well. So
yeah,
kind of like speaking.
We have a lot of commenting there and we use comments a lot, and usually we should have like documented it better, but Golden Lap was like a 8-month project, so we didn't really had time for that. We just had to get the stuff done in the best way possible.
Do you do much like version control? So did you use like Unity's inbuilt version control system for Git or?
No, we are using Git basically. No Unity inbuilt.
So you need the LFS flag on Git, I believe, to use Unity projects as well, because you've got like large files in there, or did you not find you needed
it depends on how large the files are. In Golden Lap, we didn't use it because they are basically PNGs, not big files.
Who's your top pick, knowing the database as you do? Who's your golden boy?
My golden boy, I usually took Kukkonen. I don't think he's in the early.
Too, for some reason.
Probably is mid-career, but I don't know why. I always pick him because there was always some crazy event involving him. He usually does stupid things, crashes a lot, and I don't know, there is no hard code for him, but every time I chose Kukkonen, this season was always like interesting and something weird happened.
It's weird because he was bottom half in my season. He was at Pope, who nipped us to 5th, the bastards. But
that's how you build the stories, right? In the game. For me, I use him because the first time I picked him, he done a great season, even if it's not a great driver. So it's like, this is my guy. And I always go cheap on drivers if I start with Knight.
Yeah.
So I invest more on crew chief and mechanic and less on drivers. I usually have like one free driver and one low to mid tier driver, depending on the budget. Kukkonen is that driver. He did well first time. I loved him as a driver. So it just
there's some sort of hidden code in there that just triggers, and Kukkonen just does better somehow. Yeah.
It's either does better or crashes.
Yeah, exactly. You see the different experiences, right? Pietro takes him because he was good. I take him because he was shit, but he's funny nonetheless. So
it's kind of uncanny in a way, because in my playthrough, Kukkonen's teammate was Shao, and Shao was the one that crashed all the time. Kukkonen like never crashed.
There you go.
So Strelka Games is named after one of the dogs that went into space on Sputnik 2. Right? So are there any drivers or staff members in Golden Lap that hold special significance beyond being a parody of a F1 driver? So is there a family or a friend of one of the developers that's added to the game somewhere, or is there anything like that?
Oh, this is a sad story. We do have all ourselves. Like, we do have ourselves in the game. But we forgot to put ourselves in the game. No. So we are in the design, we are in the documentation, but then we never put ourselves in the list.
Is that the next update? Is that the one that's coming?
Exactly. One of the next update. Maybe we're just gonna squeeze us in the for future, not with the starting drivers, but like or crew chiefs. But
that's cool.
Don't ask which traits Pietro have.
I have all the worst, like party animal, like all the worst. But
more of that is San Fran speakeasies, right? That's the
exactly. But yeah, so basically we thought about it, we planned about it, and then we just forgot last minute to put it in.
That's so
But
sad.
maybe
It would be great to see you guys come up in like my offline playthrough. I think that'd be really cool to suddenly see you guys.
We can definitely put it in the next update. It's nice.
You guys would be my team then. I'm gonna do a season as the developers.
That would be cool.
There you go. That would be awesome. That's a future idea, I tell you. So through the first couple episodes of my series, in the first episode, I tried to guess all the teams that were parodies because I think they're all parodies of real life teams, right? And I think there was 4 that I missed that people in the comments then filled in. And between us all, we had the following list, and I need you guys to grade whether we got this correct or not, right? So Ezzolini is very clearly Ferrari. Yep. LeBron is McLaren. Yep. Chapman is Lotus, which we've kind of already discussed. Wayland is Tyrrell.
Yep.
And the question with the Tyrrell one, is that more to do with the fact that they're called Wayland? Is that more of an alien reference or logistics reference to the trucks that carried like Tyrrell's equipment from track to track?
I think it's the truck.
That's good, because so many people in the comments were like, "Oh, it's an alien reference." I was like, "Oh, it could be the trucks though. It could be the." So I feel vindicated now. Thank you. Hemlock is Hesketh.
Yep.
Okay. Pope is Williams.
Yes, that's correct.
April is March, which is a pun, I think, and I love that because it's literally calendar months, right?
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Vernier is Ligier.
Yes, correct.
Bancroft is Brabham.
Bancroft is Brabham. Yes.
And Knight, our very own, is Shadow.
That's correct.
We got them all correct. All right, awesome.
Yeah,
I feel successful for that alone. That's great. Okay, cool. So to finish out the section of Golden Lap, biggest question of all to both of you. Are you Team Artie Von Heim or Team Carlos Rodriguez? This will divide my viewership as well based on your answers, so pick carefully.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'd say it too, probably.
There you go. No Artie love here. All right, cool. That's good to know. I'll be interested to see which comments start throwing shade at us all for never mentioning Artie. Arguably, Artie cost our championship 5th place because he crashed out on the finale, even though he was just coasting along, ready to earn some points, and then just didn't.
I mean, it's a difficult choice. It
is. Yeah, no, I get it. But hey, you're locked in now. It's Rodriguez both the ways. All the games that you guys have are on the Funselektor site anyway, and the most recent ones from Strelka's site are a minimalist or stylized kind of art style, right? And a lot of it is 60s, 70s, 80s, because you've got like Golden Lap from the 70s, you've got Over the Hill is, I think, like ranging from the 60s to 80s in cars and things like that. Beyond obviously the romanticism of the F1 period of the 70s, is there something about that period of time or those decades which you guys prefer aesthetically, or is it just that you've kind of fallen into that trend of just deciding we'll do another retro game and go in that way?
I think it comes mainly from motorsports itself. So Art of Rally is also, it covers from the 60s to the early 2000s, I think, or late 90s. But the golden age of rally was Group B in the 80s.
I'm not a huge rally guy, so I don't know this part, unfortunately.
It's similar to Formula 1 in the 70s. Like in the 80s, there was this Group B cars that were like crazy specs, super powerful, not a single bit of like electronics, and were like very dangerous to drive, very fun. Drivers dying like flies. That was the era when people were like on the streets, and they were like actually on the streets where cars were passing by. Like it was
just hay bales on the side of the road, right?
Exactly. Like people were the hay bales. Like it was crazy stuff. Like even if you're not into rally, like if you go online and search for like Group B rally, you can see these videos, like crazy stuff. And so that's why we are drawn like there, like again in a romantic way, like the golden era of rally. It was like people was involved. Cars were beautiful and powerful and raw. It was just beautiful. And so with that with Art of Rally, then we've done same thing with Golden Lap, because we love the sport and we love that era. I mean, we still love it, but that was what represents the sport at its best, I think. And then with Over the Hill, it's kind of similar. We think it's more interesting to play with off-road vehicles from the 70s or 80s rather than just like a new one. And it also makes it in a way easier even for us, because like less electronic, like it's easier to reproduce how they work in a way. But it's also more, again, like we do games that are more romantic, like, and the visuals is like very relaxing and very evocative, so it fits well with the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, rather than the like more recent game. I wouldn't say that we're never gonna make a game that is based on modern times. If
there was one other time period you guys each wanted to explore, what would it be? Are we thinking like horse and carriage from the 1870s, or are we spaceships in the 2200s?
I'm more of a vintage guy, so like we go back rather than forward. It depends on for what game or what sport.
Yeah, I'm usually always fascinated by the future, to be honest. So
you're going in opposite directions.
Yeah.
So Pietro obviously is the COO. You have to keep your finger on the pulse of industry development. And Francesco, as the developer, you are most directly involved in the impact of the industry development. What do you guys each think have been the most beneficial changes in the gaming industry for indie development, such as, Unity and Unreal becoming readily available engines, or platforms like Steam arising? And what do you think are the most challenging developments that you've had to face?
I think what you said, basically. So yeah, the development of these big engines, allowing people to concentrate more on higher level stuff rather than having, I don't know, your character move.
Redefining a physics engine or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or the lighting engine to let the developers focusing on different stuff and spending their time on different stuff, and that allowed us to have a higher quality product. Gave the possibility to, I don't know, solo game designers to make their game, right? So the Return of Obra Dinn has been made by a game designer. It's a great game that probably wouldn't have been possible like 20 years ago, right? Undertale, same story.
Yeah, I know you're a Toby Fox fan.
I am. Yeah.
So the good thing and the bad things goes in parallel in a way. The democratization of the tools, which is great because everyone from their rooms can start developing games, start learning how to develop a game, and start getting into the industry to an extent that some people have been able to teach themselves in a span of a couple of years, being able to create like actually very polished and professional games, brought a lot of people to the industry and to the market with a lot of games that also flooded the market and made it very, very difficult for professionals to have, or like in general for everyone else to have some kind of visibility inside the market. So we have tens of thousands of games a year, and it's very, very difficult to which like 5-10% of them are actually good games, or like games created professionally.
Fair, yeah.
But it's still very difficult to go above the noise, and that's part, I think, of the crisis that the indies are having.
From that, do you think that more players are waiting to get other players' reviews of games more now before playing them, because of how much a percentage of games out there are just kind of thrown out there and not necessarily polished?
I don't know, but I think that it's mainly, there are so many games competing for a finite amount of time from people that it's just difficult. Even if you see games that you like, you can't play 100 games.
I don't want to tell you how many games in my Steam library I have like no playtime on them whatsoever.
Exactly. So it's difficult to gather attention. Like having so many releases, also so many good releases, not just like the junk stuff, but like even very good ones.
Golden Lap, for example.
Yeah, Golden Lap is part of it. And we are very happy with the results of Golden Lap because we knew there was like a niche game. We didn't expect it to be bigger than what it is. So we scope it correctly. So that's also why we have always to be very cautious with how many features and stuff we put in the game. Because if it's like when we took it on, it was halfway in the production, maybe not even. And we managed in 8-10 months to finish it.
Yeah, it's incredible. Francesco mentioned that earlier. That's incredible timeline for development.
It's been alive since a long time before, but like never full on production. And of course, we could have took another year and made it like much, much better than what it is. But then you have a full year, like instead of having 1 year, you have 2 years of costs that you have to recoup. So you have to sell double the copies, and we knew that this project was pretty much that scale, so we managed to keep it sustainable. But as you said, like it's difficult to get more eyes on that game. Like a lot of other, there are so many good games that have like 50 reviews on Steam, and they're great games. It's just difficult, and that's part of the problem is just the noise, like the amount of games that are put out there because the technology allows everyone basically to release a game. And then there are other issues with the industry that comes more from investment money and how that was done before and the crash after the COVID. Like it's a bit broader. There's
famously the case of We Happy Few started to grow quite a lot, and then they got with, I think it was Gearbox was their publisher, and obviously the publisher needs to take their slice of the pie back as well.
Yeah.
And it meant they had to kind of rein in the development and you know, make a lot of changes that they hadn't originally planned for and stuff. So it's, you know, you guys, like you say, if you'd have planned for like a bigger scope, you probably could have gone and got a big publisher and said, this is our idea, it's unique because of this is our USP. But then, you know, they'd have had their costs to levy onto it as well.
Yeah, and to be fair, we are also very lucky that we've done good with previous games. So we are self-publishing and self-funding all our projects. So on one side, yes, we have to be extra careful on scoping the projects, but at the same time, we don't have the limitations that a publisher could have. Sometimes it's great to work with a publisher. I'm not saying that they're not good.
Yeah, no. Don't worry, I'll edit that part out. It's fine.
No, but I'm just saying that we can play around more with what we want to have and what we don't want to have. Simply put, we don't have to share the profit. So we need half the copies basically to make it work without a publisher.
For each of you, if you couldn't say Golden Lap, what is your 2025 game of the year?
I'll go first, but just because I probably have the most boring answer you can get, which is Expedition 33, probably. I really love that game, and the work they did was just amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Easy to say right now because he won the award, but yeah, I really enjoyed the game.
It's a small studio that's done such a huge project as well, isn't it?
Yeah. It was very, very, very good.
A couple of games that I really liked: The Invincible, like a narrative.
I've not heard of that one, but that's cool.
Adventure. I'm not even sure it's from 2025. I played it in 2025. So.
It's your 2025 game of the year. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. It's like similar to Firewatch, if you know Firewatch. It's
I
like
know
of
Firewatch. Yeah.
A Ball X Pit. I don't know how it's called. Like that is more like an indie game that I enjoyed for a while. And then maybe the biggest surprise for me, Assetto Corsa Rally, which I really didn't expect. Like no one knew that was in the making, and the game it's in early access and it's just like very little content, but what is there is amazing. Either you like Rally or not.
It's the golden lap of Rally is what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's the one that will get you into it even if you're not into it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be the new standard for rally simulations.
Before we get onto Over the Hill, Francesco, who said earlier you're a lover of Toby Fox games. How do you feel titles like Undertale or Deltarune, whichever ones you've played, like how have they inspired your development as a developer, and how have you grown in the 3+ years since your first game, which was Hell is Others?
Hell is Others was, or is better, pixel art game, right? And I think the most interesting take that I took from Undertale was that a game doesn't need to be visually appealing in order to like give you emotions and leave something into you, right? What I found incredible about the game is that even though the characters were monsters, basically, you can really empathize with them. And so, no spoilers, but I did the first run normally without spoiling anything and killed some enemies, spared some others.
You went down the middle a little bit.
Yeah, in the middle, right? Then I just had a look at how the game could have been completed. And then I tried to go for the genocide run where you had to kill all the monsters. And I simply couldn't do it. I was so attached to some of them that I couldn't kill them. I wasn't able to, right? And I found that incredible, you know? They're just pixels, but I got attached to them, right? So,
they're just pixels and it's just dots, right? It's the same kind of concept, you see? So yeah, it's when I played Undertale, I played it on stream and I had my chat had a redeem where they could vote whether it was spare or kill on the next monster. And early game spoiler here, I guess, but chat killed Toriel. And it was after she'd been so nice. I was like, what? Why? Why would you do this? But it's the emotion again that comes from that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think my genocide run lasted like 10 minutes or something. Then I was just, okay, screw this.
I can't do it. No.
Do it. Yeah.
The final section then, let's close out by talking a bit about Over the Hill, which is the upcoming project going to be released later this year. How much of the gameplay in Over the Hill is drawn from June's experience of traveling across North America in a converted cargo van?
Quite a bit. Like at least I'd say the experience of traveling or like getting lost in big environments, for sure. The vision of the game, I would say. So for sure it comes from a blend of our passionate likeness of like the spin tires saga, so Snow Runner, Med Runner, whatever. So we like those games and like how they approach the car game take. For sure part of like doing driving around big environments in Canada and North America, generally speaking.
Have you thought about doing a marketing campaign where you travel around in an RV as a team and just have the game cool, like blaring out over the top?
We just been to Spain with the whole team in south of Spain. Like we brought we work remotely, so we brought all the team together, and cool. We went out on a national park with 2 defenders and drove like around like in this dirt road.
That's cool.
Just to get the grip and the feeling on how it is to drive like a defender or off road. Actually, and we've done also some audio recordings and stuff. So we are trying to get into like what does that mean, and part of like some people from the team actually do like off-roading quite regularly.
Perks of the job, right, is you need to know how to do these fun things to deliver the experience properly, right?
It's research.
Yeah, exactly.
When Dune was working on Art of Rally, he went to a rally school, so he's done rallying for like a few days. When he done Absolute Drift, he went to a drifting school, and so then.
And these are all business expenses, of course, as well. So
of course, that's the perks of building like games about something you like. You had to do research.
Yes,
which is fair enough.
That's what Francesco said. Yeah. So whereas Golden Lap aimed to simplify the strategic genre of manager games, Over the Hill seems to have, while still being, not a spreadsheet simulator, still has more of this like grand, expansive feel to it, where you've got all these like large landscapes, the beautiful scenery, the terrain mechanics and things like that. So would you say that Over the Hill is following in that simplification approach that Golden Lap took to racing managers?
It's 100% the same approach. So we are trying to keep things simple and easy, both in the UI, but also like in the game itself. So we have simplified a lot of mechanics that you could expect from that kind of genre.
We're not going to have to get a tire iron out and start, making sure the nut fits in the correct size.
Exactly. And we don't have like fuel consumption, for example. It's still like the same vision. It's like minimalistic take on something. And so it's going to be fun, very fun. It's going to be relaxing in like similar way. So you can just drive around the sunset, enjoy good music and maybe the company of some of your friends. But there are some also challenges and some more interesting things. And what we said about Golden Lap, it translates perfectly to Over the Hill. Like you can create your own stories. Sometimes like I play with Francesco and it looks like going around, messing around with like a friend and trying to, help each other, but not really. And just like, who's the first to get there? And then you try. It is fun. And sometimes I play alone and it's just like, beautiful and relaxing.
It's chill,
sometimes when I play with someone on the team, it's like, do you remember that time we were here and that happened, the other thing happened? It's just, it's like that. So there are like features and stuff going on and objectives, but it's still simplified compared to other games in the genre. So we want to make it accessible to everyone. Like if you play SnowRunner, it's an amazing game, but you really have to learn and get the grip of it. And then I played for like a month, for like 6 months. I was very into it, and then I haven't played for another 6 months, and I went back to it and I had to relearn all the system, all the stuff. It was like a bit overwhelming.
You won't have that with Over the Hill because it's again simplifying.
Exactly. So it's just like you go in, you have fun and you enjoy it, and then you can just go back when you want.
And I guess when you make those memories, you can take photos in the photo mode. So Pietro, how did your love of photography influence that photo mode?
I think like not enough.
You wanted more settings on the camera, did you?
Yeah, but the photo mode, like, so we are using basically the similar photo mode, or like very similar settings to what we have in Art of Rally. I wouldn't say that I had like a big effect on how it's built, but I do use it a lot. I'm really testing it a lot. I really like taking pictures and taking photos, and then the game, it's just like it comes natural. Like the game is beautiful, so you just go in like, ooh. And sometimes the team hates me. I make everyone stop. Like maybe we are testing him for like, hey, everyone stops. You put the car there. You put the car there. Like move everyone around. It's like we have to test. No, don't move. Perfect time.
It's going to be the most robust feature of the game, is the photo mode will have no bugs in it whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was also one of the first, I think it has been like the second or third major feature we implemented.
What was the first then?
The winch.
The winch, of course, yeah. Because part of the fun of the multiplayer version is getting stuck in situations and then being able to pull each other out.
Yeah, I think the winch was in the prototype at the beginning.
I mean, we've talked about the fact that it's multiplayer. Obviously, Golden Lap is single player, and Hell is Others, which is, again, Francesco, the first game you worked on. That's that's a multiplayer game as well, or can be multiplayer through online. What do you find are the highlights and lowlights of developing multiplayer capabilities into a game?
Basically, what we found out with Others is that making competitive games for indie teams is such a struggle, because you have to fight against cheaters, you have to fight a lot of issues that competitive games bring.
Cheaters is always a cat and mouse game as well, right? Because you'll fix an exploit, they'll find a new one, you'll fix another one.
Yeah,
you'll end up going to like kernel level anti-cheat or something.
It's a war you cannot win, basically. It's you against the entire world, you know. So we probably learn, Pietro, correct me if I'm wrong, that for small teams, co-op games are better, easier to manage, because, I mean, you can cheat, but you are ruining your own fun, right?
Yeah.
In co-op games. We as a team play a lot of multiplayer games. We love making multiplayer games. So I think that Golden Lap has been a nice project to work on, but we always aim for multiplayer games.
Do you ever see a Golden Lap multiplayer copy coming out in the future, where you each manage a team and you fight against each other in a season? Be a whole other project, I guess, right?
Yeah. It would take probably at least 1 year of development just to put the multiplayer.
Golden Lap 2.
There you go, for multiple reasons, because now it's 2-player. So
it's gonna be Golden Laps.
Yeah, there you go. Golden Lap, 2 Golden, 2 Lap, to use the Fast and the Furious name.
2 Golden and 2 Lap. That would be cool. I really enjoyed working on Golden Lap because of, for many reasons, but also because it was single player, and we were used to multiplayer, which adds a lot of complexity, and single player is just a bit simpler. But of course, having players interact within each other is something very beautiful. So building systems that allows players to interact, even usually in different ways. So you can in Over the Hill, as in Others, as in Circle of Sumo, you can help each other, you can fight each other, you can do whatever basically you want to, and so see then players approaching the games differently and interacting is very cool. Downside is of course technical limitations or issues, or player base. I expect to be different in terms of co-op, but of course if you, as a small team, if you build a multiplayer game, especially if it's PvP, it's you need a critical mass of players that is difficult to reach, and also the kind of players that you attract are slightly different. We've been quite lucky with Others that the community was quite good, and we had to manage it quite a bit, but it was a good community. But toxicity in online multiplayer games are usually much higher in the community rather than in a single player or co-op game.
That's a bit crazy as well these days. I mean, I thought when I was growing up with, Xbox 360 lobbies, that was a toxic time, but some of the things you see online now is crazy. But I think the ability to do, co-op multiplayer without having it be strictly PvP allows to kind of combat that issue that Francesco was talking about, which is not really having cheaters, because all they'd be doing is cheating their own team. It allows you to still have those stories that you're creating together, but without the toxicity aspect as much. And if people are toxic to each other, it's probably in their own friend group at that point, right? So it's not as much your problem as it is a problem for their friend group.
You just you as a server owner, you're just gonna kick them out.
Yeah. Would you recommend Over the Hill be played more as a multiplayer or as a single player?
I would say both. It's slightly different experiences. The single player is more focused, chill, and for me at least, I like a challenge. And multiplayer is more spending time with friends. Probably multiplayer is gives you a lot, but still single player would I wouldn't rule out. I don't know, it's difficult. It's like asking if you prefer your older child or your younger one. It's difficult to say.
Thankfully, I don't have any kids. I don't have to make that decision.
There are two slightly different experiences in different ways, and they are both good. So if I had to choose which one, let's say I can keep just one, would be a very, very difficult choice for me. So it's difficult for me to recommend either one or the other. Depends on how you like to play games. They are both solid and good.
No, that makes sense. Because like you already said, I think I can see it being your single player is you're more just sit there, relax, and kind of zone out for a while. If you're Pietro, maybe you're taking 50 photos a minute while you go through all these scenery.
Exactly.
And then, if you're playing multiplayer, it's more the social, maybe a little bit of the chaos that you might get into and stuff like that. On the Funselektor TikTok, there's a lot of hilarious TikToks that showcase things about the game. So there's the social media manager doing flips while the dev is coding some sort of Angular thing going on. You've got Caramel Dancing playing at the top of a mountain. It's just like this disco going on. You've got the things to crash into TikTok that I saw there as well. How important for you guys is that work-life balance at the studio at Strelka and the Funselektor, between being productive on hitting your goals to the pipeline, but also being able to relax and have fun as a team and do things like go, driving off-road in the south of Spain and stuff like that?
It's very important. Like, we like to plan and to have roadmaps and to have things planned out so we don't have to crunch. Work-life balance is very important. So we want to keep that going. But I can speak like from my side and from what I'm trying to make happen in the companies, like both Strelka or Funselektor in the team. Francesco can give you more like idea of like how it's actually applied, if it's actually true or not. It's easier from my side to say yes, we have a great work plan.
Francesco, can we get a fact check on this?
For sure, yeah, exactly. But for sure, it's very important for us. And in building a game in the cycle, there's always a moment in time in which there's more pressure to deliver, which is like closer to release usually. And I think it's kind of natural, as long as it's like one moment or it's like one thing is not the norm. And as long as also everyone is happy with it, we are here as a company, as a team, we are here for the long run. So if we burn out people in the first for 6 months, a year or 2 years, it doesn't really work. So, but also we are lucky that again, we are in a financial position that we can manage our own roadmaps. So we put pressure on ourselves and there's no one else that does it. So if we want to push things and if we can push things around, that we can do it.
That flexibility is huge as well, because then it doesn't box you into having to do too much crunch or anything like that.
We announced the game for 2025 and then we had to move it to 2026. Maybe with some external pressure we would have to deliver in 2025. That would have meant a lot of crunch time for everyone and also a subpar product, like the game would have not been good. So we have the opportunity, the flexibility to say, okay, let's move it forward so we can work well, we can stress as less as we can and still deliver a great game. Then I leave it to Francesco to fact check.
I mean, no, that's true. I remember like 1 year or so ago, we were in London, myself, Pietro and Giovanni, which is the other co-founder. Me and Giovanni, we said, okay, we know about some teams working 4 days per week instead of 5. Why don't we try that too? It was, summer, we were like feeling like it was good to
mental
go
health
out.
to get outside, right?
Yeah.
During the summer, yeah.
And then we discussed a little bit and we tried that and it actually worked. So I think work-life balance is good in both Strelka and Funselektor. So yeah, I totally agree with what Pietro said. At the end of the day, it's important how much work you do during your week and not how many hours you work, right?
Yeah, you're not counting in number of lines of code, for example.
Yeah, exactly. It's working for us.
4-day weeks is not something you see a huge amount of, right? But in recent years, it has started to get a bit more on the rise, and more people are working remotely. Like you guys said, you're a fully remote studio. Whereas I think some of the more old school employers would still look at it as, if someone's working remotely, they're just going to be watching TV. I don't trust them. They've got to come into the office and all this. Different approaches work for everybody, but I think what you guys have going, by the sounds of it, is well structured and well balanced as well.
I mean, I think also one factor is that we really love what we do as a job. There's no need for someone to just force us into working a good amount of hour, right? So
can you give me any sort of exclusive about Over the Hill, release date or a feature that you hadn't announced yet?
We are very tight on what's going on there. We're gonna have some announcements in the next few months, but nothing I can really say now. What I can say is that we're working on a new region. But yeah, that's as much as I can say. We have a lot of cars that I could talk about, but like it's gonna take another half an hour.
Thank you guys so much for the chat. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.